welcome to Behind the Trigger, and this is going to be the Wolf trigger spring install for the Ruger Wrangler. I've done one of these before and it's very easy to do, and this is their 30-ounce reduced power trigger spring, and this is made for the Vaquero single 6 and pretty much most all of the Ruger single action series. Now that the cylinder is removed, you're going to remove the grips and just simply taking the screw out. And just like that. Now that we got the grips off, all you're going to do is you're going to cock the hammer. You're going to take your Allen wrench, your little Allen wrench, and you're going to stick it right here in this hole. Then I decock it, and that takes, it holds the hammer spring in place, the shoe and the spring, so it's nice and loose. You're going to take your little screwdriver and you're going to pop off the leg for your trigger spring. And flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. That releases it, or takes the tension off it, at least. And the one thing nice about the Allen wrench, if it does happen to move around a little bit, it stays in there. That comes out, that spring's very difficult to get back in there. Alright. You need a punch to take out this little, that little pin just holds in now that the trigger spring is free inside, you take your screwdriver and you start removing these 3 screws. And they are different sizes, so you want to make sure you get them back in the right location. And you'll see that here in a minute. This one's the extremely long one. This is the shorter one. And I just loosen up to begin with, because there is a spring and a plunger right in here. And then when you come on the back side and remove this one, there's also a spring behind this screw. So we're just going to loosen them all up. Set this aside. Let's see, that's the front one, so we're going to set it off in the front. This is that long one I was talking about. So that's going to go there. And this is the medium one. As far as the bottom's concerned, we'll put that one there. Then we got the 2 back ones. So basically it's these 5 screws and the trigger spring that holds the lower half, the grip portion, to the upper portion. Notice I'm keeping tension on the bottom, and that's just stopping for anything falling out. And just like that, we're separated. There's that little spring that I was talking about, okay? There's that little spring. We're just going to leave that together. And we're going to take this, and we're going to maneuver it out of the channel and get this out of our way. And that's the hammer spring. And right there is the trigger spring. And this is and this is the new wolf trigger spring. So you can see there's a definite thickness. This one's much thicker. The legs on these, on the factory one, is bending up and over. This one's so light, it's no big deal. We're gonna come from the front side, slip it in, grab it by the legs, slip it in there. We're just gonna kind of hold it, and we're gonna take our pin that holds it in place, and we're gonna slip it back in place. Just like that. Okay, we're not going to connect the legs yet because we want a little bit of play so we can try to slip it back in there without disassembling this any more than what we have to. You want to be mindful of this pin that holds in the hammer. It wants to fall out. So we're going to take this assembly and we're going to make sure that stays in there. Take this little hammer spring assembly, and we're going to slip it back in place. Just like so. Unfortunately, by doing that, that forces the trigger spring down in the guard a little bit, and this is how we're going to take care of that. So we're going to hold this pin with our fingers because we don't want it slipping in. Then we're going to slip the trigger in, the trigger guard, making sure that we're not catching the spring. We're going to try and line this up just like that, just kind of approximate. Then we're going to come from this side and we're going to push this, and we'll try to get a little bit closer. We're just going to get it to the point we can slide it back. There we go. We're just going to slide it back just enough to get it in there. Then we're going to come back here, make sure everything's lined up, and we're going to slip the frame. See what I was talking about with this pin? It's pretty easy to line back up, but just the whole point of it. Right. We're going to check our alignment on everything. Up. There we go. So it's a matter of lining up the hammer spring assembly, the little spring behind here, making sure this pin stays in, and making sure the trigger spring is behind the trigger. Now that everything's lined up, we're just going to throw our screws back in real quick while holding it with our hand together. So we're just going to get the screws started. Just like so. Just a little snug. We're going to put our screws back in because this one has two different size threads. So this one goes here. Slip that in. Get that started. We're going to get the medium length screw right here that goes on the opposite side. Now the shortest one right here goes right here. Just kind of hand tighten everything. Snug, 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 snug. Make sure this is pushed back where it needs to go. There we go. That's what we want to hear. One more time. Take the pin out. Okay. Trigger is super light. Like I said, super light. Then we take these little legs. And we're going to use an assistant with the screwdriver. Pop it back around the pin. Flip it over. And the last one's always a little bit harder because there's already tension on the other one. and we pop it in. Okay, mostly put back together. So we're going to do a really quick function test. We got to make sure that the transfer bar is out of the way, so we're just going to give it a little tip so it falls out of the way. Then we're going to, it locks back like it's supposed to. Pulls, release. Kind of everything seems to be working correctly. Now we're going to put the covers back on. The grips. We're going to put the grips back on. Pop it on. Pop it on. Now you're going to make sure you don't over tighten it because these are just relatively thin plastic grips. That should do her. Alright. Now we're going to snug everything up. Okay, so I just went through and checked everything. Everything's good. We want to make a quick notation of something. This bottom screw right here can protrude through right here. If you see the threads above the bottom of this, you have one of these two screws mixed up with that one. Okay, this should be nice and flush. That way when you insert the cylinder, do a quick function test. Alright. Everything's rotating like it should. Perfect. Let's flip the gate. Make sure everything rolls. Not doing what it's supposed to. That's good. Gate closed. Index clip lock. We're good. Well, there you go, folks. This should easily take the pull weight of this Ruger Wrangler down to about 2 pounds. I was going to average about 1 pound 13 ounces with my Wheeler digital trigger pull gauge. So, hey, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Till next time.